What is up, guys? It's Verns back here again with another Supercoach video. This time it is the round 11 review. And look, I'm pretty psyched. It was a good week for us, and we finally see a green arrow. After 3 weeks of a red arrow, we see a green one. And look, I kept saying the team's coming together. We're going to head back in the right direction. I can really feel it. And it just took a little bit of patience to finally see that results, come to fruit. And it's just very nice to see. Yep, 408, back up on 148 places to 343, a round rank of 78. It was pretty awesome, honestly. And a lot of the things that I think we expected to happen this week actually, as I said, sort of came to fruition. So it was just really nice overall. We'll jump into the team, have a look at how we sized it up. If you do follow me on Twitter, you obviously would have seen these all already. For those that don't, you can just follow me on Twitter at Verns_SC. Now, as we can see, we fielded Magne, which was really nice. We fielded Williams and captained him, which was nice. McCall bounced back in his second game. I guess the only things you look at here is I made some moves to get Air off field so I could get Warnenberg on field. Ended up being a 10-point difference, so because of the bench scoring 5 points lost there in reality. And then we went Lamb over PJC because of that, which technically outscored PJC by 2 points. So really only lost us 3 points overall, but we did lose a little bit of money between the Lamb and PJC matchup, saying that that doesn't really matter too much off of 1 week. At the end of the day, we were taking them into the double this week as well, so it really mattered over a longer period of time. It wasn't just a 1 week, Lamb outscored him, PJC earned a bit more money. No, we kept Lamb because we've seen what he does in doubles. He always shows up in doubles. He always seems to have consistently high scores in them, and I believe in his ability to outscore PJC in this double week, significant enough to really make up that difference of money, I guess, that was made last week. But yeah, Qual obviously came out with a good game for us too. So look, we will jump through the games quickly, just because I always ramble way too long in them. First off, Southeast Melbourne got smashed by Melbourne. We're going to go to game day to have a look at the actual game stats. It's a bit easier to go through this way, but we can see that Williams, 34, it's not bad at the end of the day. It's sort of what we expected as captain, that he's sort of a 30 minimum, that his floor is very high, and honestly, we're happy with the 34 he put out. We're happy with the 67 he put together overall. But I think the real story here was Lual Jr., massive game. I mean, ended up with 7 blocks. I think Ben Air had him in his Supercoach team because he fed him at least 4 of them, if not 5. Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about Lual Jr. If you did go for him as a pod, I mean, the biggest thing with Lual is that he didn't have the double-double, so it's more about the damage that he does this week that you have to force trade him straight back out. Saying that, there's a lot of teams on doubles, though, so maybe you're in a position where you could afford that 1 week rental. But yeah, a lot of people, if you did jump on him, you got a bit of extra points this week. He was the highest scoring player. If you doubled down on the captaincy, then awesome. I guess something I did want to mention real quickly with the team before we go through the game day is, I guess we talked about the captaincies last week, and I hope you guys sort of followed the advice. We looked at, I said, different tiers. I talked about Williams being number 1 and McCall being the backup if Williams isn't in your team. And at the end of the day, Williams was the second highest scorer of the week, and McCall was the third highest scorer of the week. So it worked out quite nicely. We talked about Lual being there. If you did pick him up as a smoky, then you could put him as a captain to sort of, try and push that point of difference. And we can see the weekly winner definitely had him, highest scorer, and they had the captaincy on him, which would have been very nice. We also talked about Miller and Crawford, not really my favorites. They were sort of a tier 3 captain list. And, Crawford, I guess, wasn't the end of the world, but I think the reason we brought in Williams was to captain him. If you didn't have him, McCall's been on such a heater, how could you not? And as I said, Crawford was only really a captain option, in my opinion, when Doyle wasn't in the side. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to talk about that real quickly, because as I said, just things that we sort of talked about last week just came through quite nicely. But I guess in this game, the biggest thing is Mitch Creek goes down injured. Anyone that brought him in actually gets punished, and it's very unfortunate for them because it wasn't the incorrect move. It just, sometimes this happens. The great thing was Ben Air obviously had a good game for us too. We brought him in nice and cheap, good break even. He had a good game here, and then he had a good follow-up game in game 2 as well, and it was very good. For those that jumped on Kenyon, actually a little bit punished here. Kenyon didn't put out the numbers that he has been putting out, and yeah, pretty disappointing from him overall. So a bit punishing there. Brown, I think we talked about Brown being a smoky, especially with Cummings out of the team. I think he definitely has a much higher ceiling, or at least it felt like that. But I got to be honest, I don't feel that way about Southeast Melbourne anymore. Like, they suck. They suck. They got blown out in 2 games, pretty embarrassing. And one of them was the Illawarra Hawks. So, I mean, what can we say about that? Like, especially with Creek going down. They talked about it on the commentating that it's like with Creek going down, it's like who's the highest scorer in this team? Like Williams is like one of the highest scorer, Brown is the second highest scorer, and then like the rest of their team is made up like the scorers of players that aren't playing for them anymore, Cummings, Cook, things like that. And it's like the third highest scorer that's actively playing on the roster, obviously Creek isn't playing anymore either because he's injured, is Ben Ayer at 9.9 points. So basically 10 points a game. In reality, 10 points a game from your third highest scorer is tiny. Like, let's assume Williams is putting down 20, Brown's putting down 20, Ayer's putting down 10, that's 50 points, and then you got to somehow make like another 20 to 30 at minimum to have a chance of winning through the rest of your team, and these aren't guys that score like Foxwell, Vague, Kenyon, Tarangi. Like, they're not guys that are going to be putting out those sort of numbers. And I understand that, if 4 of them put out 5 points a game, there's 20 right there sort of thing, but they just lack offensive power, especially with Creek going down. Like, they look like they lacked offensive power in this game with Creek on the floor, and now he's out of the team. Like, they look like they suck, and honestly, they are a team I think we should target going into the future rounds. Like, if you've got a player going into Southeast Melbourne, honestly, you want to pick some. Like, I think they're going to score well against them. I think they're going to give up big Supercoach points. They just don't look good. Yeah, honestly, disappointing from them. Llewell, as I mentioned, massive game from him. Bowen, I remember actually having a really good game here. I think a lot of work under the key. He got a lot of steals, actually. He actually kept stripping Creek. Creek kept trying to take him to the rack, and he kept just getting a hand in and stripping him. And playing a really, really good game. Against a veteran versing a younger player, and Bowen just really showing that he's going to be, like, elite in the future. He might look awkward as hell shooting that ball with that little one-handed, I don't know what the hell that is, but you know what? It goes in quite consistently, and he's very good on the defensive end. Not really Supercoach relevant player. Yes, a great score here and probably a very good break-even right now. Break-even 2, yeah, very cheap price, but Melbourne's run sucks, so we're not really going to worry about Melbourne players too much. So I guess we can just skim through this. Goulding, yeah, shot some nice points, was very slow early on, but his Supercoach points represent his points he was scoring, like, pretty like for like. Hookporty had some good moments. Delhi just loves to feed Hookporty dunks. Like, he slams it home, and it's so beautiful to see. Like, god damn. Yeah, so good. Clark had some good shooting as well. I think he was going head-to-head with Brown. I think they were having some little tiff there. They're having some fun with. Down game from Travers in a Supercoach sense. Probably down on the floor as well. I don't remember him really doing too much in this game either, but yeah, game sort of just turned the junk for the last 5 minutes anyway. So let's jump to the next game. Let's stop wasting time on that. Really low-scoring game from Cairns sort of like side of things. Like, they sucked. New Zealand ran over them. They just offensively were so stagnant. Like, they weren't moving in offense. Their threes weren't dropping. They were relying on threes. This is the first time McCall's had bad Supercoach game in like 5 games. He's probably been really good for at least 5. And then he comes out with this 17, and it was just, he couldn't score. His offense was a bit off. Not making layups, not making his middies that he's been a bit more consistent with this season, and then he wasn't getting the steals, and he just was turning the ball over. So not good from him. Miller, same thing, just wasn't the Miller we've seen previously. Armstrong stepped up in this game, and so did Meninga too. They had some good moments. Qual doing his thing. Wonder Boy a little bit lackluster, but what can you do there? For those that brought in Roberts, super punishing. I talked about him basically needing to be a trade out this week, and for those that didn't trade him out, you got absolutely destroyed by it. This -1, minus 24k. I mean, we brought him in, last week? We gained 27k off him, 21k off him, and then we had to get him out. Keeping him this week meant that he lost all the money you earned, so there's now no benefit to him, and his overall score, you got, 13 and a -1, so 12 points for you in 2 weeks. Nah, you just had to get, hindsight's obviously much easier to look at this, but I was definitely for trading out Roberts and not holding on to him. But for anyone that did, very punishing. Very unfortunate for Antonio. I feel like he's been playing some really good ball, but yeah, just didn't really get the minutes this game and didn't get him in the next game either. Klintman didn't land those threes, and this was the other thing I talked about. So obviously we had the Supercoach HUD podcast where I sat down with David, coach of Do It for Jack, the currently leading the NBL, rank 1 Supercoacher, and we got asked the question: Magne, Wardenberg, Klintman, and I did say I feel like Wardenberg over Klintman because, I mean, obviously Magne was 100%, you just need to pick him and put him on field. But if you had to put a second one on field, Wardenberg over Klintman, in my opinion. Klintman relied heavily on threes to get his offense going. And in this game, we saw the opposite. He wasn't hitting threes, and he was just getting benched by Ford constantly because he wasn't doing it. I mean, when he wasn't hitting the threes, his offense honestly is pretty lackluster. I feel like his attack on the ring and his energy is great, but he only really gets that after a few threes. It's like it lights a fire under him once he hits a few threes. He's like, okay, I'm on, let's do this. But I think it also means the defense has to come a little bit more out to him, a little bit more committed to him shooting, and it opens up for the drive. But yeah, he only dropped the 5 here, had a pretty poor second game too, and yeah, Wonderboy came out with a better week. Then Klintman saying that neither of them really had good weeks. They were just, I guess Wardenberg's was passable. Klintman's was pretty disappointing. And then we come into New Zealand. So anyone that kept PJC, Lamb, doesn't really matter. Honestly, 2 points, not a big deal. 35, 37 from them. Awesome. They come into the double now. So once you hold on to them, you get to put them on field this week and feel very comfortable about it. And oh my goodness, the next star, Rustavishkis. I mean, I talked about him earlier in the season, really wanting him when he was like at 90K or whatever he was. He was really cheap at the time. But then he got injured, didn't play for a while. I mean, New Zealand came to the end of their good run, and it just didn't seem worth bringing him in. And then he's, really, really been lighting it up recently. I mean, he's so reliable from the 3. He was really getting steals in this game, and he was also driving and scoring inside. Like, he looked super good. If you are jumping on him this week, I don't mind that. It's only really a 1-week cash cow because he's got the double. I mean, you're probably going to keep him a bit longer than that. That's the only annoying thing, jumping up people that only have a 1-week double, but there's not really many good teams going past here. Like, everyone has the double this week, but then a lot of people have double singles after that. It's something we'll talk about a little bit later, but yeah, he was at least phenomenal and I think really good to get on. Matty Yang, we take a 16. He's done much worse, so we take that. Okay, I got to speed run through this. I'm going way too slow. So Cotton, 44, awesome for everyone that's holding on to him. Probably not many people have. Pinder, I don't want to fucking talk about it. 38, what are you doing, mate? You're in my team and you didn't get to 38 once. And in the last 2 weeks, you've gone with 38 and 40 something. Get fucked. Sorry, I don't usually like swearing on this, but I'm sick of Pinder. I'm sick of seeing him perform so damn well after being so damn pathetic in my team. Saying that, if you guys did watch this game, it was actually a banger game. Like, what a game. I can't believe the comeback win from fucking Perth. Sorry, now it's just slipping out constantly. I need to calm down. But Perth, honestly, just what a game. They went nuts at the end. They hit some crazy shots. They were like, what a comeback, what a game. It's so good from them. Jack Jumpers, I can't believe they let it slip through their fingers. It felt like they got scared of losing, and because of that, their offense just fell out the window, and then they had no offense, and Perth couldn't miss a shot, so it didn't really matter, and they just ended up throwing this game away that they never should have, and then Jackies ended up losing 2 games in the week, so super painful for them. Magne, great game though, 42, awesome on-field option for us, and just, yeah, what a superstar. Crawford, honestly, you'd be so disappointed with this. 27 Supercoach points, and I'm pretty sure he had 27 actual points as well. Like, he played an absolutely crazy game. Like, this was the thing. As much as he scored 27, like, actual points, he's not like a Nathan Sobey who it's like, he scored 27, how many shots did he take? He hit 12 out of 29 attempts. Like, crazy amount of shot attempts. No, Crawford's numbers, like, he missed, like, 2 or 3 shots in the game. He shot so well percentage-wise, like, probably 90, 85% plus, however you'd work it out. But I remember at one stage they said that he was, like, 10 from 12 or whatever he was. And, yeah, he was so good. And to think Crawford came out playing this goddamn good and Jackie still lost. I don't know what you do with that. Like, when every shot it went in, like, Perth couldn't do anything about it, saying that they were locking him down so hard that he couldn't get many shots, but when he made it work, because God, he is so good and so quick on his feet, he just nailed the Jays. Most disappointing thing, honestly, for Perth was how bad Doyle was. And look, like we all know, Doyle's just come back because he's had to go back home because of his father passing. He's come back, first game back. He had a few bad shots to start, and then he hit 2 in a row. We thought, oh, Doyle's heating up. This is where he comes. And then he just decided he was going to keep building a house in the middle of that stadium. Like, there was so many bricks. Airball, brick, airball, brick. He just was awful. Like, the shots weren't even close. Like, sometimes when players take crazy shots, they at least get relatively close. Like, we watch DJ 3J love to throw up a deep 3 or any shot he can get. But I got to be honest, like, even when they don't go in, he gets pretty close at making a lot of those attempts. Like, I can see why he's shooting it. Doyle he wasn't close. Like, I know the Inside Boys love to bring this up, but I love NBA hang time too, and I think he couldn't hit a backside of a barn. Like, it was awful. Oh, goodness. Just terrible from him, honestly. Krislovich comes out with a 10. McVay comes out with 10. Very disappointing if you're a McVay owner there as well. So, yeah, just unfortunate there, guys. Let's jump down to the disappointing Southeast Melbourne, who gets stomped by Illawarra. Like, I can't believe this. You get rolled by Illawarra at home. God, you suck. Oh, they went down to Gippsland and got wrecked. And, yeah, Alan Williams, 33 points. Brown, another 28 from him. So, look, reasonable Supercoach scores. Air, 23, which was really nice. Look, they had a little tussle, Air and Gary Clark here, and look, it's always hard to comment on this, especially when Air's in your team, so you're naturally biased towards him. He gets the steal, and he really should have had a free pass to Williams for a dunk. Assist to Air, dunk for Williams, would have been great. I don't know how Gary Clark didn't get a foul there. He, like, reaching around somebody to get the ball. Like, I don't understand how you don't get a foul there. And even with it, like, I understand Ben Ayres ripped himself because he's ripped the ball and gotten himself into a headlock situation, but the point he's had to rip and Clark's arms have come around him. Like, they were already around him, and once he's ripped, he's put himself... Like, I just don't know how it wasn't a foul. It just seemed so weird. And look, I know Ben Ayre grabbed his jersey and it was all like... It was pretty crazy. And look, I don't usually talk about the stuff that's not Supercoach relevant. Gary Clark gave him the little man thing, like the little... can't really do it on you, but he stood up and he did the little, like, down here, like, too small, and it was just like, whoa. Like, but, I think Air was also, kind of in his right to be mad. Like, as much as he's ripped it and he's turned himself into a Gary Clark headlock, Gary Clark definitely wasn't letting go. Like, he could have just released his arm once the whistle was blown, but he didn't. Like, he held on to Air's head. I can see why Air was mad about that. One, there really should have been a foul. Like, I don't know how it wasn't. And then second thing, this guy's got you in a headlock, which is unfortunate, because you turned yourself into it, but then he elected to not let go of your head. So I can see why he was so mad about that. But unfortunately, I mean, Clark gets the chocolates at the end of the day, and that's usually what you usually say. If something happens in a game, you just say, look at the score. And that's all Clark really needed to say at the end of the day, because that's what happened. But yeah, I mean, Air played a pretty good game, honestly. Honestly, super disappointing here that he didn't get a massive score. Was actually game one or this game? Oh, I already forgot which game he did it in, but one of the games he gave dimes. He gave, I think, Williams like 2 open layups, maybe Kenyon an open layup. Like, one of these games, it might have been the first game against Melbourne actually, but I think Air gave at least 4. Like, he ended up with, I think, 4 assists at the end of the game, but I think he probably did about 12 or so assist attempts where he's given someone the ball who's had the shot and just hasn't followed through. And probably 4 of those were absolute give me buckets. Like, they were free, and his teammates just didn't convert. Like, they really sucked this week, and it hurts because X should have put in an extra, I'd say at least 8 points. Some of them, sometimes it's like you kick it out to Kenyon in the corner, he's wide open and he misses, and it's like, look, that's fine. At the end of the day, it might be a wide open 3, it's still a 3, it's not as free as you'd say. But other ones, I think, were like Williams inside, who just like was missing layups. Like, it was just disappointing from the rest of his team, honestly. But yeah, I think Air honestly did really well this week. He put down 40 points, he's got a good break even now, and just a perfect pickup in our team, which is awesome. Once again, the rest of these players aren't really relevant, so we won't worry about them. Clark is super relevant. Another great game from him. He's so yin yang though. Sometimes he's really good and sometimes he's not. He's a bit more consistent than the rest of the Illawarra boys, at least. Harvey is someone that's also a yin yang, but a lot less consistent than Clark. And Froling's pretty good. He's the stable one on the team that puts out consistently decent numbers, so someone we'll look to target eventually. Robertson actually had a pretty good game here, which is cool for him, I guess, at the end of the day. And I guess someone that we wanted to keep our eyes on, we talked about AJ Johnson potentially being a pickup this week because honestly, he had a good week last week. Coach talked about more minutes. I thought he'd come in and have another good week. And in a blowout game, he just didn't really get the minutes. And I didn't really expect that. It wasn't the same as last week. Last week, they got the win. And I feel like the younger players played a lot more than what they did this week, which was just a little bit disappointing in that sense because it really means that he's not the Supercoach relevant pick that I think we thought he was going to be, which is unfortunate there. So he's now crossed off the list as someone we are not getting this week. Jumping down to United again. Once again, not really Supercoach relevant at the end of the day. Adelaide about to be Supercoach relevant, though, as of next week. Once again, they're running a very restricted lineup, not many players, very close game. Adelaide gave a pretty good fight, honestly. Kell putting out some good numbers now. Humphrey, who's been pretty decent for them all year. 3J putting out pretty good numbers too. Yeah, these main four at the top, they're looking way more consistent and actually Supercoach relevant. So when Adelaide next week, they will start their doubles. And they will have 4 doubles over 6 rounds. So going to be Supercoach relevant, really good. And these 4 players are really looking Supercoach relevant. So it's very nice to see that because we didn't think we were going to be able to jump on Adelaide players when the run came around, but it looks like we should be able to. New player we will be looking at, though, in regards to Cash Cow is Nick Marshall. He was, once again, really good, 18 points. Last week, he got some good minutes, but didn't put down the Supercoach. This week, he got the minutes, and he put down the Supercoach, which was really nice. So, yeah, he only put down the 6 last week, but he was basement price, 64K. This game of 18, it's really bumped him up. Once again, we're going to, just like AJ Johnson last week, we're going to take an extra look at him. We're going to look at him again this week, see how he goes against Brisbane, see if he's getting those minutes. He's at that basement price, though, where he needs to be averaging just above 6, so maybe 6.5 to 7 points for him to be worth his value. He's going to -4 break even, though. If he gets a 14, he's going to go up 17K. That's not a big deal. 93K is still really only like an 8 average or something like that. So hopefully you can get around this mark, stay a reasonable price, and then be a good downgrade for us next week. Easily jump down to him and use that money to upgrade other players in the team. So that's the hope for Nick Marshall this week. Trevor's definitely stepped up in this game, which is awesome. Delhi doing Delhi things. Yeah, Hookbody, once again, doing really well. Luell Jr., awesome. There's not really too much to say here. I mean, Goulding was a little bit less relevant in this game because the big men were just getting it done. But yeah, they're not really super good relevant Melbourne players. So if you brought them in for the 1 week rental, awesome. You got not what you really wanted out of Travers. You got great out of Luell. I think Delhi's still pretty cheap, so for his price, yeah, you would have been happy with what you got from Delhi for his price. So nothing wrong there. If you did jump on Goulding, pretty disappointing though, because he's got pretty hefty price tag now, and to have only put out 46. So that would have been a little bit disappointing for anyone that took the risk there. And then we will jump down to Taz Kings, and Taz was just really, really bad again. Oh man. This wasn't even a good game by the Kings, in my opinion. I think Taz was just bad. And once again, Kings just trying to hold the ball up at the end and just milk the clock as much as they could. But it kept looking like Taz were going to make the run. They're going to come back. And they just couldn't. They just weren't shooting the ball well, unfortunately. I was very surprised with Magne not getting as many minutes as I thought he was going to get, and yeah, he was pretty mere in this game, but look, a massive game 1 from him means that he got a relevant Supercoach score for us, so we'll take it. That's fine. Those that ended up bringing Krislovich, kind of expected. He got the 10 and a 0. I'm not surprised. McVeigh at least paid back the faithful a little bit this week. In this game, going back to 39 for the double, so disappointing, but not as bad as it could have been. And then Crawford and Doyle, just for the price you're paying for them, honestly, very disappointing. If you captained either of those, that's just painful as. But Adams comes out with a great game, shows that he's still a superstar. And look, he met his break even. He only went +2. Now he has a great break even heading into a double game. He needs to reach 49 on a double. Like, this man's pretty good, 60 plus. You'd think almost 50 minimum. So he's going to meet that at minimum. Probably make a bit more money there. So pretty good pickup right now as Sydney are coming into their run where over the next 6 rounds, they are going to play 4 doubles. So they're going to be the most Supercoach relevant team basically to trade in this week. So Adams is a great target there. Hogue had a good bounce back game. Pretty cheap now comparatively to how he started. Still got a pretty hefty break even though, so you could definitely be patient. You don't have to jump on him straight away, but they are going into New Zealand, and New Zealand's pretty small, and Hogue does play pretty big, but he does play outside. Galloway, just electric again, like just so good attacking the ring, so active in defense, getting steals, shooting threes, just looking like an absolute superstar. So, and what a nice little, like, cheapie as well, like for what he does, so cheap. Valentine, honestly, I don't know, Valentine feels pretty disappointing, honestly. Sometimes he's really good and he makes us think maybe this is it, but then he's pretty lackluster at moments too. Final game, showdown, oh my goodness, what a game. I mean, last week, Cairns try and hit the buzzer beater, but hit it late against Sydney, and they don't go to overtime. Sorry, just got an itchy nose. Where this week, Brisbane hit the buzzer beater from Norden. Sorry, Cairns tried to hit it, but was half a second late. This time, Brisbane half a second late with Norden hitting the buzzer beater from 3, and they lose by 1. What an awesome game. I mean, in reality, Cairns had this game wrapped up, and Brisbane did so well to fight it back. When Sobey's firing, Sobey is so good. Bannon, if you held on to him, I guess, pretty good result at the end of the day. You'd be pretty happy with that. If for some reason you have Harris or Baines, you'd be bloody disappointed. But Zukowski really stood up and had some great moments when those two hit foul trouble early, which was awesome. Isaac White, I don't know how this guy just manages to drive and always find a bucket. Like, god damn, that's nice. But yeah, not really too Supercoach relevant in that instance. I mean, they're on the double this week, so if you want to go for a 1-week rental on these guys, really only the top 2 you're looking at, in my opinion. And then Cairns, yeah, McCall brings it back massive, 44 points. Qual starts the game off hitting some threes, looking really good, active in defense. Yeah, just so nice. And then Menenga, just a great game from him, like shooting well outside, doing all the good things inside as well. Did rely quite heavily on scoring for his Supercoach points this week, though. So that could be a bit of a worry, but he does have a -10 break even here for people, so he just needs to walk onto the floor. If he can put out 23, so he's on a double game, and he just needs to put out 23 on a double week for 31K. Like, there's a good chance this man is going to make insane money, so he's almost a must trade in just for the cash purposes. I mean, there's still plenty of rounds left, and cash is still very relevant, so awesome. Miller, bit of a down game, that's fine. Wardenberg, yeah, could have been better. I think Menenga was relied on a lot more. They both played together a lot on that field, but Menenga was passed the ball a lot more inside to take it to the rack, as well as just shooting better outside as well, so yeah, really nice from him. Yeah, Armstrong right. Clement, as I mentioned, disappointing, and this would have hurt anyone that brought Latme in a while back because he's dropping big cash, and yeah, coming in to just get a 0 or get a poor score this round. 6 points? Yeah, there's no way people are still holding him. You've got to have traded him ages ago, right? Yeah, anyway, I guess we've rambled on enough about the games. Let's talk about what we're looking at the end of the day. We're looking at trading out. Look, everyone here is technically on a double. So when I'm trading someone out, the most relevant thing is who has the best run right now. Now, for those that don't know, as I mentioned, most teams actually have the double this week and then a single. And for those that don't have the double this week, they only really have one double over the next 3 rounds, irregardless. The only exceptions to that is Cairns, who have 2 more doubles left before their massive run ends, so this round and the following, and then Sydney, who have won this round, then a single, then another double. But then they actually have a double after that, so they technically have 3 over 4 rounds. So Sydney have the best run out of any team moving forward from here, so Sydney players need to be picked up this week. They're also coming into New Zealand, which we know is a pretty small lineup. Cheatham might be back, though he probably is back, and then Illawarra. So, look, I wouldn't be surprised if Sydney players come out with some really big scores here. So we're going to be moving out Manyang. Unfortunately, can't bring in a Sydney player because we did already talk about who's basically a must-have, and it's just what you have to do. Menenga's break even is too bloody good. If he keeps getting this role that he's getting with Ford currently, where he's playing bigger minutes, then look, 49 points, that's a massive round from him. This might be the same thing as Roberts, where he comes out with one massive round and then the next week 40 changes it all up and Menenga doesn't quite get the score that we saw from him. As I did mention, he also relied quite heavily on actually scoring points to score that Supercoach as well. So as I said, if he's having an off shooting night, not only may he not score the points, but he may just get benched for a longer period of time, so less opportunity to do the other things. So a little bit, I guess, scary in that aspect, but with him having the minus 10 break even, once again, it's low risk for high reward. Because worst case scenario, he makes money. He's going to sit on our bench, so his points aren't as relevant, but if he does have another big week, then he's not just going to make money, he's going to score decent points. So it's, once again, low risk, high reward. So you just have to honestly bring him in. He has to be the pick. And then the next one here is super hard for me to choose from. Like, I look at all these players and I think, man, who do I go for? And I honestly have to look at their break evens. And when I look at their break evens, who are going to make them? I honestly planned on it being Qual, but nice 25 break even after this week. It's hard to move him on. Armstrong with another one, but a 19 break even. He's probably going to make that, or at least get close to it. And really the next one there is honestly Wardenberg. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wardenberg outscores Qual this week. But even with that, look at this. If they score the same points, Wardenberg comes out at 37, Qual comes out at 38, Qual gains 13k, Wardenberg loses 11k. So assuming they score the same, Qual's basically 25k better off. If Wardenberg outscores Qual, he'd have to outscore him quite significantly for a money aspect, but it just feels like this is the lower risk trade at the end of the day. It's got less upside than Qual, and less reward than Qual if it goes well. So we might as well move on Wardenberg here. I think that's probably the best trade out. And then what I'm actually looking at bringing in. Now, the thing is, I can afford two players that are absolutely amazing, which is Hogue and Galloway. I can afford them both. So the question is, who do I want? And I've got to be honest here. I know that Hogue's got that nicer average, but I think I want Galloway. Like, Galloway's shown in the last couple of weeks that he is just as good as Hogue. Even if he doesn't, like, if he can match his scoring, great. If he scores a little bit less than him, that's fine because he's 80k cheaper. Being able to bring in Galloway and bank 80k to make future trades feels so nice. I guess the only thing that's punishing here is if Hogan has a massive week, which he definitely could have, and we have seen from him previously. But Galloway is honestly a talent. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that man ends up getting picked up by the NBA. Like, just he's young, he's so active in defense, he wants the ball, he's so good and so athletic, and he can shoot the three ball. Not as well as Hogue shoots it, but I think he is more tempered in the matter that he's not going to shoot it as much because he's not expecting himself to be an elite shooter. But when he gets the open J, he punishes you because he scores it. All of a sudden, you start respecting the J, and he's just so athletic and so quick. He's going to get to the rack on you, elevate, and you can't stop him. So, yeah, I feel pretty comfortable bringing in Galloway. And the team just looks awesome from here. Obviously, we're going to bring Lamb onto the field here, and then it's Galloway versus Magnay. And I think I have to go Galloway going into New Zealand and Illawarra. That looks too nice. Saying that, I mean, Tasmania is into South Melbourne, who I mentioned we do want to probably target, but Williams is probably the only... he's the strong link of the team. Out of everyone, he might get into foul trouble, but he is the strong link of the team, and at the end of the day, we know Cairns run with like Tasmania run with three bigs, and sometimes you just don't know at the minutes. I think Galloway is a bit more secure for his minutes, so I think he has a better opportunity to score more consistently. So that's why I'm going to put him on field for the better scoring. Lamb obviously jumps in because that's why we've kept him for this. And then captaincy, I'm actually going to go down to McCall. I know, this is why we brought Williams in for double captaincies back-to-back, and then we're going to not use him this week. Look, they're into Cairns, who have actually been pretty restrictive on big men scoring, and then they're into Tasmania, who are the same thing, pretty restrictive on the big men scoring, so it's actually not the greatest matchups for him. The other thing is Cairns is into South Melbourne. We just talked about how South Melbourne suck, and they've given up points, and we want to target players who are going into South Melbourne. That's exactly what we want, and that's what we've got with Cairns. McCall is going into it. if I had to be honest, Williams isn't even my toss-up this week. I would toss up Lamb and McCall over these two. I mean, New Zealand into Sydney. Sydney like to play a high-tempo game, and there's always large Supercoach points in them, and they always give up a large chunk of the pie, so Lamb could come out with a big one. He's also into Brisbane, who might send McDaniels to him, but I think McDaniels isn't big enough. They probably send the Bannon to him. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Lamb has a massive week, but I'm going to take not even the risk on McCall. McCall's so consistent. He's been so consistent. Even with that 17 he put out, then he put out a 44. So in reality, the last 7 games he's played, 5 of them have been over 40 points. One of them was 34, and he was fouled out with 7 minutes, 8 minutes on the clock, so basically a 40-point plus game. And then he had the 17. So one outlier where he had a bit of a down game. I think McCall's been consistent enough to take the C here. Hopefully he doesn't prove me wrong, but I think, yeah, McCall's going to be my number 1 C option. If we do this like we did last week where I give him tiers ranking-wise, I would say tier 1 is going to be McCall, Lamb, Adams. If you got Adams, I think Adams is should be almost numero uno lock-in. Him and McCall pretty close, I would say. Lamb slightly behind McCall, but pretty good shout as well. Tier 2, if you had to choose them, I would say Miller is down there. I would say Williams is actually going to be a tier 2 for me this week as a captain option. Hogue is a tier 2 as a captain option. Also in tier 1, if you've got Bryce Cotton. Bryce Cotton's also got to be tier 1. For anyone that's going for the 1 week rental on Bryce Cotton, I don't even care about that because I don't mind if you're doing that because I think you're going for a weekly win. You bring in Bryce this week, you play for the weekly. Why not? If you're not going to win the competition, why not try and win a weekly? Bring in Bryce, throw the C on him, and see if you can win the weekly because he's been so damn good. So honestly, he would probably be numero uno captain option, followed by McCall and Adams as a tight second, and then Lamb as third. But all of them tier 1, all of them are going to be elite. All of them I think are going to score really bloody well this week. And as I mentioned, tier 2, Williams and Miller probably there. Hogue as well. I wouldn't put him there. Put PJC in as a tier 2. And then tier 3, we can probably look at putting someone like a Sobey in a tier 3, I would say. Crawford in a tier 3 again. Probably Doyle in a tier 3 with him. Maybe Pinder in a tier 3, if you want to really look at it that way. Illawarra, I guess, also on the double. So I guess you've got a Froling or something. Clark, they could also be tier 3s. Brown, I guess, would be a tier 3 from South Melbourne. But they're not really guys that you're looking at, if I had to be honest. I'm naming a lot of names here, but let's be honest. Let's stick to the tier 1 guys. That's who you want. You want your Cottons, you want your Adams, you want your Lamb, and you want your McCall. If you want to drop tier, as I said, go for a Williams or a Miller potentially. I would slightly rate them lower than the others, but definitely viable options at the end of the day. So that's at least how I'm feeling about that. That's how I'm feeling about the team. I'm super psyched for this week. And as I mentioned, I think the team's in a great position where going forward, we're going to be making up some good ground, and I'm very excited for it. So, tell me what you're doing, guys. Tell me how your week went. Thank you for staying to the end of the video. Always appreciate that. I appreciate those that like and subscribe, and I just appreciate you all being here. So, anyway, till next week, guys. Peace. Later.